Hey, how's it going? So today I am just going to talk at you and I want to discuss Zander Moricz, actually. The young man from Florida, the student class president of Pine Valley High School for gifted students in Sarasota County. I don't remember the exact city they're in, but he's a plaintiff in the don't say gay bill, and he's gay, so I don't really want to talk about that. That's been discussed to pieces, and if you want to know about him and his role in what I just said, like as a plaintiff in a lawsuit against the state's law, then you can certainly rock your search bar. But that's not what I want to talk about today. What I want to talk about is the way that he sidestepped a bunch of prohibitions they tried to put against him when he was in, before he was going to give his commencement speech, his own speech. And so he had to, figure out a way to say what he wanted to say without violating all of these rules they suddenly threw at him before he was going to go speak. At least that's the way I understand it. He was always going to speak, I guess, but at the last moment, apparently, they decided to hand him over a little rule card with a bunch of stuff that he shouldn't say or do in his speech. Mainly, what they didn't want him to do was get personal or political, and kind of hard when you're the thing. It's not like something you're doing or something you're wearing or something that you've adopted. It's who you are. It's like the way you fell out of the birth canal into somebody's hands. It's just like your hair color or your nose or something. You can certainly alter those things, but the reality of like your hair, for instance, after you cut it, it will grow back. So change is subjective, I guess. But anyway, he does not want to change. He doesn't want to have to feel like he has to. And so I actually wrote about it in more detail on WordPress, so I'll include that in the link. But more importantly here is that the law basically tries to deny you of your most basic personhood. Like, it's just, I keep mentioning in my writings how the stuff happening now is just like, it's very serious, and it's very scary if you allow yourself to fall into under the influence of fear. I don't recommend it. But it's stunning, the things that are going on. I couldn't help but think this is like a cartoon. I feel like I'm reading a comic book or listening to a cartoon when it's doing news, because like the war has been just kind of like, really, dude? Like, everybody knows you're just butthurt because the US has always been your hard on. Like, you want to beat it, you want to be it, but you want to be it Russian. And that's just not how it's worked out. And part of the reason why your country, president of Russia, sir, is crapped up is because of your leadership. So, I mean, mirror. Anyway, all of that stuff with trying to make gay not be a thing and something you can't talk about or refer to, or I guess they don't even want you to think about it. I mean, that would be my next logical conclusion to like what they're handing out. I can't make a lot of sense of it, except that it's not what they're saying it's about. I mean, people collectively have gotten together out of discomfort for gay, trans, LGBT. I don't know all of the letters that it's become. It's different every time I look, but I'll just go with the consonant people because that's what it was at LBGTQ. So I hope I got that right. Anyway, despite like the label, they're still people. They're persons, and that's kind of what I wanted to talk about. And I'm just going to relate an incident, and I hope it conveys that message. When I was younger, I was in a punk rock band, and this was in Los Angeles, in Hollywood. And so, one of the bands that I really liked, who were my friends that I both played with and roadied for and just attended their gigs because I just enjoyed them so much, was 45 Grave. And the bass player of 45 Grave was a guy. Well, in that band, he was called Rob Graves, but his name was Rob Ritter, and he was also in Gun Club and like several other punk rock bands, like over the years that from like the beginning. He was probably one of the first musicians there, like a seminal punk rock person of Hollywood, California. And he was very nice. All of the girls just loved him that I knew because he had it going on. He had like the look, he was handsome, he just wore his clothes so well, and he was just stylish and elegant, but a punk rocker. And then he was a great musician, and just his whole general vibe was so mellow and so, he was just such a nice guy. So this one evening, I had made my way to Orange County, which was over an hour away from where I lived in Hollywood, to see a show. And the show had ended, and what we did often, and I think this happens at any concert you're going to go to of any size, after the show, you're in the parking lot talking about where you're going to go get booze before the store closes, or which party you're going to go to after you secure the booze, or who's got the booze and where's the, it's like that kind of thing. So, and also like getting a ride. Do I want to go home? Is this person going to take me home? Or, you just, well, I didn't have a car, so that was like my situation, but the people with cars were also involved too. But anyway, it was just like a whole sort of second gig in the parking lot. And, basically people dribble away off where they're going to go. But while that was all happening, I was standing there with Rob and then another guy who was also in the punk rock scene very early. And his name was Craig Lee, and he was in the Bags. And Craig also wrote for LA Weekly, local LA Weekly, free weekly paper, but very influential. At least it was in Hollywood. And Craig was openly gay. And then the third guy that was there was yet another guy from way back when in the punk rock scene in LA named Geza Gideon. And Geza is still around, alive, and doing just fine, I think. And I don't really know what they were talking about. I don't really remember. And keep in mind, at this time, I would have only been like 15 or 16. So I'm standing there just kind of listening and just being all like, yay, I get to stand next to these like famous guys. They were famous to me. They still are. And so I don't know, like I said, what they were saying, but something came up to where they were like, it was like obvious, like Rob is gay. And I was just all, you're gay? And he sort of takes me by the arm, like by the shoulder and the elbow, and leans in and he says, yes, I'm gay, but could you like keep that to yourself, especially around here, which was Orange County. And at the time, there were a lot of like skinheads doing like gang beatings of gay guys that they'd see walking down the street, then presumably they were gay. Like that could be a mistake, but that was the thing that was kind of happening at the time. And the punk rock scene, it was even more sort of savage because the skinheads, like mainly they just wanted to drink and fight and probably fuck too, but the drinking and the fighting, like that was kind of their deal. Like that's why they showed up in a way. And if you were foolish enough to go in the mosh pit, which I rarely did because I just didn't want to get kicked and socked, basically. But they would be in there like trying to really nail people, and people will come out like bleeding and cut up and have to go in an ambulance, and it was bad. So, and it was especially bad in Orange County. Like they would come to Hollywood, and we'd be like, "Oh, damn, the skinheads from Orange County are here getting to fuck shit up," basically. Um, so that was the general vibe, and he was like, "Keep it down." And I'm like, "Totally get it, totally get it," but that was why. Like, I don't know what it's like to be gay and what it's like to deal with being out or not, and I deal with stuff just being a black woman and well being mistaken for a homosexual quite often, and I'm not, by the way, which kind of guts me because it would be like my own family a lot of times insisting, no matter if I was like denying it or just saying no, you're mistaken, that's just not the case, and they'd just be like, well, you're this and you're that and the other thing, and it's like, how do you even know that? You don't spend any time with me. You don't talk to me. You don't pay attention to the fact that, well, whatever. They just like never took the time to know why. Like maybe I chose not to conform to like society's idea of what women are supposed to be doing with themselves. And I guess they just were like, I gotta call you something. And I'm like, you could just call me my name, but please stop calling me the wrong thing because it's just dumb. Like, if I were, I wouldn't be hiding it from you. That's not my personality. If I were gay, I would just be like, I am a lesbian and that's it. Deal with it. Just like I am not a lesbian, just deal with it. But, it happens, and I'm not like that worried about it. I certainly am not getting my ass kicked or potentially the way he was, I'm sure, and had been. Like he never talked about it, but I imagine he probably got jumped at least by one person or just some drunk idiot. It happens at nightclubs and the aftermath of clubs where you just have people at loose ends that are wasted and maybe all jacked up from swirling around in a circle and randomly, nailing people. I don't know. Like, that's not my thing, but they would sure come out of there in some kind of mantle of aggression. Indigestion. Sorry. I have damage in my brain from watching commercials on television. But anyway, I just wanted to say that before Rob let me know that about him, the only difference that it made was that now I knew that I like didn't have a crush on him actually, but I did appreciate his appearance, and all of the other stuff, fellow musician and just a nice guy, but like he wasn't one that I was all hot and bothered for, let's put it that way. But I know plenty of people who were, and he was so gracious about it, like I don't think he ever even was like, you can't be with me because X. I think he just kind of like, demurred from things. Just politely, pleasantly. But the point is that he was just a person. Like, I didn't think about what he did with his wiener with who, and I didn't care. I still don't. Oh, he's no longer with us. He actually overdosed, sadly. And, whew, yeah, that one still hurts. I mean, all of them do, but I just know the circumstances of how they found him, and it was just, no one saw it coming. Like, no one knew that he still felt the need to like blot out whatever it was that made him want to seek refuge in being high as fuck. I don't know. We we're not close. We're not that close. But I mean, it's just so easy, I think, to get lost in the idea of what the perception of someone is doing and what the person who's perceiving it is thinking. I think we're seeing a lot of that now where they have that sort of inner dynamic going on, like the after club thing. They're like all hotted up and I don't know what to do with it, but here's a person, and there's things we call certain people, like all of us. I'm going to stick to America because that's where I live. That's where I can be authoritative about. Man, I can't talk today. Authoritative on is America because I live here. Can't really speak to other countries, and honestly, I can't really speak to anything outside of my own immediate area. But I don't mean my own immediate area at this moment in time. I'm like, how much older am I? Well, 15 and 16, I'm 58 now, so you do the math, but it's a lot older. Presumably, I've changed. Presumably, people have changed. And I think that's the case. I'm about done here, but I just wanted to say I was watching another psychic. Okay, fine. I was watching another psychic, whatever. Another person with a channel on YouTube. And she is a psychic. And she just was giving a message from Spirit today, but she was saying that... Oh, great. Of course, it's going to flee right out of my mind what she was saying. But basically, she was saying that, I'm paraphrasing here, we need to, like, give each other a break. Like, we're all having a hard time. And it serves no one, really, to choose to react by attacking someone else because you find something wrong with them. Does it occur to you that that might work both ways? Like, people have this, I've talked about it before, there's this slogan that, people that don't like people of color are saying, which is black people ruin everything. And I'm like, which black people where ruined what exactly, please? And they just like throw stuff out there and it gets attached with all this ugliness. And there is history with that kind of attitude against other people that generally are not feeling the same way in return. So I think it's interesting that gets missed a lot. Like, there are a lot of people talking about civil war and people not replacing other people, and they say it like everybody else is going to sit there passive like a banana peel, and it's like, let me just remind everyone of the crack 80s when there were so many news reports, and I guess there was online to see back then, but people would film themselves with all of their drugs and money and guns, and there'd be a lot of guns and other stuff, and there'd be a lot of people doing this. And so I don't know how the connection doesn't get made that we have guns too. I mean, I don't have a gun. That's not anywhere on my agenda. Like, I ain't killing anybody. If someone else kills me, that's on them. That's all I have to say about the whole matter. But there are a lot of other people out there that are not talking about civil war or replacing people or any of that silliness. They're just quiet, sitting there, letting people do what they're going to do. And if they're going to come messing their business, then that's when they're going to react. And that's always been the case. I mean, a lot of times the situation ends up where the person of color is sort of physically overwhelmed and overruled by some authority or just someone else with a gun and they're unarmed or some uneven situation like that. But if they want to start with that Civil War stuff and really start coming at people, like I know there's been a lot of intimidation and I haven't heard much about the response to it really. I've just heard it reported and heard about the people doing stuff. But I don't think there's a really any good or logical reason to think that if that stuff started, that it's just going to be like they're going to be welcomed as liberators as they tried to tell us with Iraq. Like, I don't think that's going to happen. I think especially lately, people that would react or respond in kind have just about had enough of reacting to stuff done to them and are ready to act to offense. So I would offer an alternative. How about we don't do any of those things? Because while we are wanting to do all of this stuff to other people and be so concerned with what other people are doing, I have to keep asking because it just, the minute that question occurs in my head, right on its heels is another one saying, "What's going on back at home? Don't how are you? Don't you have some responsibilities that you should be caring about a little bit more about than mine?" You know, like we all got a lot right now, and completely disagree with me because that'll happen. I'm sure. I can't stop it, and nor do I want to. That's the way of the world. That's what makes it happen. That's what makes it work. Like there's an interlocking piece for everything. For every action, there's a reaction. But we can temper those. We can temper our behavior. We can temper our sudden onrush of hot feeling. How about just like let it wash over you and like burn the small hairs off of you, but let it also just keep going like fires do. It'll get tired of burning you and move on to more I don't know, fiery pastures, more tinderable pastures. Okay, I'm being silly, but you know what I'm saying? Like, we don't have to do every reaction we think of. We don't have to say everything we think of. In my social media world, it may be thought by some that I don't temper or censor myself at all or edit, but that's not the truth. Even in a comment section, I generally am sitting there rephrasing, replacing words, adding, just tinkering, editing before I actually post it. So, yeah, there's that for whoever wants it, I guess. But anyway, bottom line, everything I said there, everyone is just a person. You can call them something, you can characterize their appearance or what they do. Okay, doesn't take away their personhood. And that's something we all share and something we should all cherish and value in ourselves and each other. I know there's like people that don't like it when other people are saying you should or you could be doing this or that or the other thing. It's just a suggestion right now that I'm saying. I understand that point of view, but just like when we have something inside of ourselves that's not pretty and beautiful, that is possibly destructive and ugly to other people or on or at other people, well, we can change that. We can fix those things if we choose to, but we're also, if we don't, choosing to still be that, all those other things. So, I mean, which makes things happen easier? Which way makes people more willing to cooperate? It's certainly not being yelled at and attacked, I can tell you that. So, ideally we would all like have love for each other, and that doesn't mean any of the traditional things that we think of it as. For me, at least, what I think of when I say love, for us to love each other, when I'm talking about that, I mean like, let's don't kill each other. Let's not like go out of our way to make another person's life bad, upsetting. We can do that. Like, you can have the bad thought, but you don't have to say it. You can have the bad idea, but you don't have to do it. We can also like have those feelings and have those thoughts, and that's fine. It's when we act on them is when I feel like it runs into trouble. So that's what I mean by loving each other. And then if it gets to be more than that, which it could, great, even better. How is that bad? I can't see a thing bad about it. So yeah, we are all just little persons. Let's be nice to each other. Why can't we be friends? Why can't we be friends? Why can't we be... Oh, shoot. I shouldn't do that. I have no money for licensing fees. Why can't we be better acquainted? Why can't we be better acquainted? Thank you and good night.